Welcome. Main themes in Blossoms of the Savannah. Theme number 1: Tradition. Tradition is people's beliefs and practices, which in this case has been passed on from one generation to another. In the book, the author explores the tradition of the Ma people. Using the Nasilian community, the book looks at the socio-economic and political setup of the Maasai people. The Ma people, in this case, the people of Nasila, have several traditional practices. To begin with, they threaded female genital mutilation is the heart of the story. When Kalo's family relocates to the village, Mama Milanoy fears for her daughters refer to page 8. As it seems urbanization had shielded them from the fearful mutilation, another practice is polygamy. Kalo seemed contented with his lean family and wife, but his brother Simeon bathes in the glory of 4 wives and more than 16 children. Refer to page 16. Oluwasudori is a man of means, and he displays this to Parsimai by helping him secure lump sum loans and lucrative deals from the government institutions in Nasila. Having been a modest employee, Parsimai was leaving large on his wages. However, with someone like Oluwasudori, he sees his dreams of making it large in the society come true. As it seems, Kalo is surrounded by very powerful individuals. One of them is Oluwasudori, and the other is old Supayo. Supayo made a lot of his wealth in selling his cattle. It was Kalo who helped him greatly by counting the money the man brought home from the sale of his animals. Refer to page 21. It was from this honest brow that Supayo blossomed into one of the most powerful men in Nasila. Another successful individual was Oluwasudori. From what we can gather in the book from page 25 and page 100, Oluwasudori was a gangster and a well-known extortionist. According to Nkaboini, he was also a poacher. Refer to page 236. Surrounded by such men of means, Parsimai strives to emulate his betters. Therefore, he enters into a deal with Oluwasudori. Although Oluwasudori is a man of his word, his mannerisms and conduct are questionable. His motto is, "I scratch your back, you scratch mine." When he finds out that Parsimai has 2 gorgeous daughters, he hatches his plan to extort from him. Parsimai, unwilling to let go of his business contracts and the smell of quick wealth, Parsimai puts his daughters in a rather difficult situation. Rijan and Teo are compelled to make a choice between their beliefs and early marriage. The lure of affluence, especially when Oluwasudori invited Parsimai and his wife to visit his homes, makes Parsimai insanely greedy that his principle and moral standing are compromised. In fact, his love for Teo is quickly replaced by the want into the rich cult that he lets her undergo a forceful FGM in preparation for nuptials with Oluwasudori. Theme number 3. Female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation is one of the traditions that has received a lot of criticism because of its impact on the psychological and physical well-being of the girl child. Despite the heavy campaigns against it, the vice has continued to thrive among certain communities in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. As a practice, the vice is carried under cultural or religious viewpoint. In this avenue, some anthropologists condemn those against the vice for cultural infringement. However, scientifically, there are no known benefits accrued from the practice. In practice, female circumcision takes different forms. Firstly, there is clitoridectomy, which involves the partial or complete removal of the clitoris. Secondly, some communities practice excision, which takes out both the clitoris and the labia minora, vaginal edge. And finally, there is infibulation, where the entire vaginal orifice, opening, is closed either by stitching or holding the cut areas together until when the wound is healed. In infibulation, 2 openings are left for urinal activity and menses. Although the book does not explain exactly what practice the Nasila people did, it is clear that they either practiced clitoridectomy or excision because of the Almuranya. The practice is highly valued by the people of Nasila, that those who do not undergo the ritual are derogatorily referred to as Intoi Nemingalana, a girl who has not been cut. Men shun away from such women, and they are viewed contemptuously. Refer to page 19, page 46, and page 137. In order to be fully ingratiated into Nasila culture, Parsamai is told to ensure that the girls are initiated. Refer to page 52. This ritual is so important that Mama Millinois' request to be assisted against Oluwasudori is denied. Refer to page 145. Oluwasudori also demands that the region should be cut because she is married to him. However, after a lengthy discussion, they decide that cut will be performed in Nakuru. When Rishan escapes, however, Kalo takes over the responsibility of circumcising Teo. Refer to page 273. Curiously enough, the author does not give the definite number of Cimarron's children. I should point out that, in many African traditions, children are not counted. In most cases, an average number is given, or maybe it is just the author's way of writing. Besides the two, the Nasila people practice communalism. The beauty of communalism, or what I may call community socialism, is that it promoted selflessness. Page 149. The key lessons Kalo's daughters learned were being mindful of others and respect for the elders. These virtues, among others, made Rishan and Teo come to love Nasila and appreciate several aspects of Nasila tradition their parents had not taught them. Rishan found out that in the presence of such uniformity of love and lack of preference, she could relate well with society and perform her duties without her father's reprimand. In fact, Kalo's daughter had the best of times at their uncle's home than when at their lovely mansion up the hill, according to Parmuat as seen in page 87 and Menik in page 263. FGM was a tradition which had been introduced to curtail the lascivious Ilarinkoi. Women, being powerless against the charm and provocative nature of Ilarinkoi, decided to mutilate themselves as a form of resistance. However, as Rishan and Minik observed, the practice had outlived its utility and was now practiced as a form of male subjugation against women. Nevertheless, Parmuat observes that the practice insofar is for the benefit of men, it is still women who wield the almurunya knife. Theme number 4. Education. Education is the passing of knowledge from one individual to another. By this definition, education can either be formal or informal. In the novel, there is both formal and informal education. Parsamai Ole Kulet struggles with the rat race and manages to educate his two daughters to O levels. The daughters seem to hunger for further education, and that is why Rishan asks his sister Tato to request for permission to join the university. Refer to page 4. As they move to Nasila, Rishan and Teo hope that it will be a temporary shift as they prepare for the appropriate time to ask for the chance to go back to Nakuru and pursue their dreams. In Nasila, they meet educated and forward-thinking people like Parmuat and their Yayo Kiti. Parmuat is a teacher at a local primary school. Despite their open mind, Parmuat and Yayo Kiti are at home with Nasilian culture. Rishan and Teo, on the other hand, find it hard to fathom hardline Nasilian stand on FGM and early marriage. In order to ingratiate the girls deeply into the Nasilian tradition, Teo's father requests Parmuat to teach the girls about their own culture. Parmuat walks the girls into Nasilian culture from the tyrannical rule of Ilarinkoi to why women undergo FGM and the different kinds of love among the Maasai. Furthermore, Parmuat teaches Teo song and dances. Parmuat's lessons rely heavily on the word of mouth passed on from one generation to another. His keen and agile mind seems well versed with his traditions, notwithstanding the Western education he had received. In fact, he is ready to forsake Teo's love, for she is technically his sister, although they are not related, and also an Ntoi Nemingalana, uncircumcised girl. The Maasai informal education is called Alkuak. Refer page 150, which was the way of life and the beliefs of the people. Tato and Rishan learned from Yayo Kiti that although more Maasais were taking their daughters to school, they were afraid of the influence of this new education system on their cultural fabric. Initially, many educated Maasais emigrated to the urban centers. However, Yayokidi, as seen in page 151, had observed a new trend where these urbaners were returning back to the villages. Yayokidi hoped that this urbanized Maasais would be the pivotal points of change. Meanwhile, with the help of the university-educated Minik in Nkoitoi, Teo and Rijin join Edgerton University to further their educational career. Theme number 5. Gender inequality and the place of a woman in society. Nasila is a male-dominated society. Kalo marries the daughter of Nasila and is happy on how she has behaved in the over 20 years of matrimony. Mama Milanoi had remained loyal and submissive to her husband. When Kalo is laid off from Agrobix, she is worried about how life will be, but when he reassures her, she believes him. In fact, she does not even ask where the money for starting the business came from until Ole Sudori, as seen in page 94, introduces himself to the family. She had never heard the name before. Although her daughters confide in her about their dream to join campus, refer to page 147, she does not find the courage to talk to her husband about it. She participates in Rijin's marriage plans without opposing to what she felt like a violation of her daughter's rights, as seen in page 197. Furthermore, Nasila tradition had a way of maintaining itself through the informal traditional education called Alcuac. Refer to page 150. Alcuac ensured that the cultural practices were passed on to the next generation. It was the responsibility of the elderly to pass on the lessons to the young generations. She stands by her husband's word and follows his lead even when both her daughters fall into Aluisudori's trap. Instead of alerting her daughters of the impending danger, she leads them blindly into their downfall, as seen in page 272. First, it is Rijin, and secondly Tato, who she reassures that everything will be okay. In Nasila, women are like property. When Teo and Rijin report to their father about the near-rape incident, the father takes it as a personal insult and begins to seek revenge, and not justice for the girls. Though the girls were the ones offended, their say is not significant to the case. They are really offended when they come to learn of the Council of Elders' verdict. Refer to page 162. Secondly, on the issue of marriage, Rijin is not consulted. Everything is planned without her knowledge, and what is expected of her is consent, without question. Refer to page 203. Aluisudori on his part builds a house even without the knowledge of the wife's consent, on how the house should look like 190. When Yayo pays Parsamai's family a visit, she comments on how good the girls were in the kitchen. Refer to pages 76 and 77. Although Teo finds it amusing, Rijin is incensed by the perception that women's position is in the kitchen. Rijin's resilience against the status quo has a name among the Maasai Alcuini. Yayo says it is only FGM that can remove Alcuini from a woman. It is not only Rijin who is trying to wrestle inequality in Nasila. Minik in Nkoitoi is at the helm of not only rescuing girls from FGM and early marriage, but also ensuring that they learn to be independent and equal opinion makers in the society. Having graduated from Makuru University, Minik runs one of the largest ranches in the region. Furthermore, she is fearless and therefore confronts Aluisudori unflinchingly. It seems FGM did not remove her Alcuini after all. Theme number 6. Patriarchy or male chauvinism. Male chauvinism, otherwise known as patriarchy, has a long history. There are various schools of thought on where patriarchy came from. Firstly, theorists believed that patriarchy was born with Adam. Being the first man on earth, Adam, after the fall of man, was given the power by God to rule over the woman. This is a type of patriarchy that Bob Thomas Pierrick in his MA thesis refers to as traditional patriarchy. According to the paper, patriarchy was mostly used to refer to the authority of the father over the household and its members. However, it would be Max Weber who would use patriarchy and patrimonialism to refer to domination beyond household to political territories, hence introducing modern patriarchy. Another applied usage of patriarchy outside the family setup would be brought forth by Robert Filmer. In Filmer's view, kings had divine power to rule over a kingdom without the consent of the people. Drawing from Adamic lineage, Filmer observed that Adam was the first king, and so men with power and influence had the prerogative of inheriting leadership, inasmuch as patriarchy was confined within the family setup. It blossomed into one humongous force, taking over the economic, social, and political privileges until the rise of feminism. In her book, The Evolutionary Origins of Patriarchy, Barbara Smuts postulates 6 hypotheses to explain its rise. According to the book, male domination is a characteristic that is well developed in humans than in other animals, especially primates. Various anthropologists observed that male coercion was predominant where females lack social support from relatives and friends. Also, in cases where females were subjected to controlling mates, their resistance reduced as observed when female olive baboons are released into an area controlled by the dominant fierce hamadryas males. Smuts walks us through the journey of male domination until when males became the key decision-makers on literally everything, including reproductive health and the concept of virginity. In Blossoms of the Savannah, we explore traditional patriarchy. According to the book, Mama Millinois passes out as the ideal wife. She knows and understands her position as a housewife. In fact, she nurtures her children into model wives, as seen in page 77. There is also the expected order of things. This is observed in Samarin Ole Kulet's homestead. All wives are expected to respect and obey the first wife Yeobatter. She is the one in command of the homestead, and every undertaking runs by her. Although this is done to bring a semblance of unity, it is playing deep into what the menfolk want. In Nakuru, the daughters of Parsamai Ole Kulet are nurtured into what may seem to be a gender-neutral society. Both Rijan and Teo ooze a maturity about them, and they seem to know what they want in life. Teo is very confident and open-minded that she asks her father for permission to attend a music extravaganza in Mombasa. The father refused flat-footed. This was Teo's initial encounter with patriarchy. Also, the people of Nasilla were welcoming to any person who paid them a visit. It was not an unusual thing to get up in the morning to find the living room full of men and women who came that early, not for any tangible business, but simply to share sumptuous breakfast with their kith and kin. At first, it was unsettling for the girls, but soon they came to acknowledge this as was of Nasilla's custom. There were also aspects of Nasilla tradition that had ceased to exist. When Oluwadari asks for permission to marry Rijan, Mama Millinois contemplates how things had changed. Refer to page 115. The refusal by Parsamai to let Teo go to Mombasa creates a sense of mistrust between the daughter and her beloved father. Therefore, when it is time to ask for permission to join the university, Teo becomes reluctant. Rijan, on the other hand, has a keen sense of foresight, and therefore avoids her father whenever possible. Maybe she sensed the chauvinism in her father. In Nasilla, the girls are introduced to stone-hard chauvinism. To begin with, they are accosted by miscreants for being uncircumcised. Before long, the girls are nearly raped by the same vagabonds who had previously accosted them. To make matters worse, the issue is solved in the absence of the victims. In this regard, Rijan and Teo felt the injustice did not meet the elders' deliberations. Refer to page 167. Although Teo and Rijan thought that the near-rape incident was the furthest humiliation could go, they are yet to meet the storm of Nasilla, which is slowly gathering momentum. Rijan smells a whiff of the storm, and that is why she becomes insecure even in the presence of her family. Little did she know that her father had planned for her marriage to Oluwadari. When she learns about this, Rijan is inconsolable as seen in page 209. Oluwadari, on the other hand, displays a kind of wretched chauvinism. Having extensive wealth, he thinks he is magnetic and every girl would scramble to be his wife. Instead of courting Rizhan, he goes to extreme length to decorate her house, refer to page 190. To be and shower her with expensive gifts, as seen in page 178. In doing this, Ole Sudori compared himself to Lord Ngada Egerton, a man of considerable wealth who lived in Njoro, and also, infatuated by a beautiful girl, built a mansion to please her and convince her to be his wife, refer to page 186. Like Lord Ngada, Ole Sudori was in for a rude shock. Rizhan refused him outrightly, and in fact, she never got to see the beautiful mansion. Lucky for Lord Ngada, his girl looked at the grotesque monstrosity of a house and called it a pigsty. Ole Sudori and Lord Ngada had one weakness. They thought that girls were for sale to any outstanding man with considerable wealth. Nevertheless, Ole Sudori did not give up on Rizhan. He followed her to Entar Naju, where he is met by Minik defiance and the brutality of the men working in the ranch. Furthermore, Ole Sudori thought as a man of influence, everyone would fear and blindly follow him. He realizes his mistake when Rizhan openly insults him and walks away from him. Being confident that she was being childish, he puts his second plan to kidnap the girl, only to be beaten to the chase by Olarinkoi. He is also brutalized by Minik and his gang, which sent him scampering for safety. Minik too had considerable influence. Olarinkoi too displays masochism after rescuing Rizhan from the claws of Ole Sudori. Firstly, she is left to ride on the bed of the pickup alone, while Olarinkoi and his friend occupy the cabin. Whenever she falters on the journey, she is insulted until they make it to Inkido. Instead of welcoming Rizhan into his humble home, he orders her around to prepare dinner and walks away, only to return and attempt to rape her. Rizhan puts up a spirited fight that leaves her for dead. The men in the book have a lopsided way of displaying affection to the opposite gender. Though Kalo was smitten by his wife Jane Milanoy, his way of showing affection was providing her with a comfortable home and food, but not indulging her in decision-making or opening for her opportunities to blossom. On the side of his daughter, he thought that the O-level education they had received was enough. When he realizes how expansive Ole Sudori's estates were, he thought letting his daughter marry him would be the best a father could. In fact, he hopes that one of Ole Sudori's wealthy men will come for Teo. On the other hand, Ole Sudori thought that building expansive mansions for his wives was the most honorable thing to do. Being secluded in the well-secured mansions overlooking the scenic oceanic line was the splendor that would make them the happiest women in the whole of East Africa. He never thought that there were women whose desire was to achieve educational and career goals. End of main themes in Blossoms of the Savannah. Thanks for listening. Please like this audio and subscribe to the channel. We will appreciate for doing so. According to Mama Milanoy, tradition forbade a man marrying a daughter of his age mate. If a man was infatuated by such a girl, women would rally against men, and only the persuasion of the elderly would appease women to allow their men back to the house. Meanwhile, the man who attempted such a thing was killed by the angry mob of women. Besides, Nasila people were overly protective of their girls. If male guests came to a homestead where girls were, they would wait outside until the girls had been taken away before getting into the house. Another tradition that was thrown out was emuada, a horrible and disgusting cultural practice that demanded young brides to wear heavy copper wire tightly coiled around their limbs. Refer to page 263. The gruesome practice was discarded for its effects on girls and women. Minik hoped that FGM would go the same way. Theme number 2. Affluence. Affluence means extreme wealth. After Parsamai's retrenchment, he returns to his homeland with delusions of grandeur. In order to secure his future, he enters into business dealings with Oluwa Sudori Lunkia,